Infinity Bros, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend himself, I'm back. You guys may have gotten used to the sweet and sultry tones of Isaac Edlund, but after a long hiatus and a uphill battle with COVID, it is me, Jarret the Infinity Bear, back in the studio today. Of the 5 other hosts of this podcast, I got ghosted by all 5, so you will not hear another Infinity Bro on this. Instead, another legend in his own right. I would say probably, if I'm the best looking, the most charming, the most intellectual of the Infinity Bros, this may be my equal from MTGGoldfish. I can't say that because Tomer does listen to this. So Tomer, I don't mean a word of it. Don't worry.
No, you've heard what Tomer said.
Right.
We've agreed that, like, you know. No.
Joining me today, we have Crim, also known as the Asian Avenger. Crim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Hi, listeners. How y'all doing? Yeah, pretty excited to be on the show, and really happy to just make some time to get this all to line up and be here. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So as you guys heard before, Crim is from MTGGoldfish. If you listen to the Commander podcast, watch any of their streams, any of their content, he's around quite a bit. I have this goal. I haven't told anybody this on purpose. Okay. I have this goal to, like Thanos collecting the stones, I want to collect all of the Goldfish cast members. Right. Including Richard's new baby, you know, naturally.
We'll get the baby on the cast. Okay. All right.
And the more I thought about this, I was like, perfect. We got Tomer on the podcast. Crim's here. And then I was kind of going down the list and I was like, do I really want to call myself friends with Seth? And all that entails. So maybe we'll skip Seth, go straight to Phil or Richard, but we'll see. Crim, obviously, I know you from Magic content and a few other places. Other than your Commander and Magic content, where do people find you?
You can find my personal YouTube at Crim Nguyen, CrimNguyen, because YouTube won't let me have my handle for some odd reason. So I've got to redo my origin story. And see how I can get it on YouTube. But, so you have me on there, and you have me on Twitch. You have me on all the social media platforms at The Asian Avenger, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, yada, yada, yada. You know the business. You can go ahead and follow me there as well.
Obviously, like, we know you from Magic content, but I've also caught more than a fair share of your streams. Yeah. Final Fantasy 14 seemed to be a big one for you. Wow, you're big into that.
I do love my second lives. Yeah.
What are you tearing through right now? Is it more of that? Is there any game that's caught your attention recently?
Actually, recently I took a break from Final Fantasy 14 and then picked it back up again, mostly just because I had spent all of the most recent Savage tier raiding. And so through that, I had spent all this time progging. So once we cleared the tier, I needed to take some time off so I can, like, relax and not dedicate. Like touch grass, as everyone would say. So, had to do that. Haven't played WoW in a while, but, you know, gotta love my Frost Mage as well. Other than that, though, new games that have caught my eye are Genshin adjacent games, not quite Genshin. And then, of course, as always, I'm always looking for new horror games and any random Steam sales then it just happened. Like, I just found out SpongeBob Rehydrated is like $7. I don't know when this episode airs, but it ends August 18th. So if it airs before that, go buy it. It's like $8. It's online multiplayer and it's SpongeBob. So, you know, it's good.
That's a banger. Absolutely. A lot of vlog content as well. It seems like you're at every convention, Magic, anime. You're doing everything, man.
Yeah, I do love me some animes, and I do love me some comic books. So I love all those things. You'll see lots of that content on my YouTube as well, as I'm currently working on something super top secret that I can't quite talk about. But yeah.
If you tell us here, though, we're really good at keeping a secret.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, there is something on my YouTube channel coming, so.
Awesome. Pay attention to that, guys. We'll post a link to in our socials as soon as that drops. Give Crim a shout out. Yeah, between all that, I kind of think you're lying to me about touching grass. Because how do you juggle all those things and still like maintain a healthy amount of fresh air?
Well, as you can hear, I have 2 dogs. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. They are little dudes that drag me out. I have Dormu, and short for Dormammu, and Thor, the dog of thunder. So my 2 little corgis. So they are my touch grass aspect. That night, get coffee or something like that. and anime conventions, I think that counts. Actually, there's no grass anywhere near the convention. Whatever.
We have a corgi as well, and she's having puppies right now, and so my house is a mess. Cute. They're adorable, but it is so much work.
Honestly, I could believe that having 2 and being in SoCal that's like heavily like dog dense. Every dog needs to meet the other dog, or they get territorial, yada yada yada. So like, there's all that in the training that comes with it. So I do. She does
the rounds and pees on everything, and I'm like, you're fine. They're not encroaching on your turf.
Yep.
And our puppy is named Cassie, after Cassie Lang.
Cassie Lang. Ah, yeah. Okay.
So I feel you there.
Like Cassie.
Love of the corgis, love of Marvel. It's
I kind of like Marvel, I guess. Like I have a moderate level of joy from comic books, so yeah.
We have a good introduction here. Obviously, I probably know a lot more about you than you know about me. But now I want my community here, the Infinity Bros universe, to get to know you a little better. So we're going to roll into a segment we like to call the Infinity Gauntlet.
Are you a heel or a baby face? If you could make any flavor Cheez-It, what would it be? Is it pronounced Grogu or Groku? If Keanu Reeves isn't in the movie, can it be star-studded? It's time for the Infinity Gauntlet, here on the Infinity Bros podcast.
Crim, good luck. I hope you survive the experience.
Wait, quick question. Does that make it the ICU?
Yeah.
I guess. All right. Well, yeah. We'll see if I'm ready for this.
Fantastic. All right. First question is coming at you live from Max.
Okay.
This one's a bit of a softball. Describe yourself as a coffee order.
As a easy. Black iced coffee. Maybe a slight splash of oat milk, but nothing too much. I like it pretty bitter.
Sure. Wow. So not sweet. He's, cut straight to the point. Cool as ice. All right.
I don't like iced coffee. I mean, I don't like hot coffee. I only like iced coffee. Yes, exactly, boy. Come here. Come here. But yeah,
we get a fourth or a third guest on the podcast.
Exactly, my dog.
That's interesting. So I have a bit of a reputation. I have this problem that like I'm always super exhausted before I go live for a stream,
right?
Or a podcast. So I'll make myself a pot of coffee at like 7:30 at night, right before I go live or whatever. And I've been torn apart by everybody on the internet over this, but I don't like iced coffee. I never have. I've always drank it hot.
Really?
And so to me, okay, and people are like, I don't understand. And I was like, I explain it this way. To me, iced coffee is like warm ice cream. Like it just doesn't make sense in my mind. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this whole time I've been wrong, but I'll have to try the black iced coffee.
I don't know how bitter you like your coffee though, because that's the thing. I like I don't actually like sugar. All my sugar comes from like maybe boba, but even then my boba is light on sugar, right? The sweetness comes from the boba itself.
Right.
So I am all about the coffee and tea, kind of like just like the natural flavors, nothing added, nothing additional. So
I don't know what it is about iced coffee, but maybe I'll have to step out of my comfort zone. The next question comes to you from our, I guess, wild card of the podcast. His name's Mark.
Okay.
Mark actually gave you an easy one, so be thankful for that.
Good.
He said you're in charge of casting for the Fantastic Four movie coming up.
Okay.
You have to cast Galactus and the Silver Surfer for the MCU. Who are your picks?
Okay. Silver Surfer, I think is going to be pretty easy. I want Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh wow. Okay. Sure.
I would either love Lawrence Fishburne or like. That's kind of a tough question, actually. I feel like Lawrence Fishburne's like the first person I can think of right now off the top of my head. Galactus is hard because, I mean, are we gonna like he's gonna have his overalls, his big hat, like, you know, helmet on, and I'm hoping he's not a cloud. So like,
yeah, exactly.
As long as he's not like a weird little fart cloud, then like,
yeah.
I guess I don't really care who plays Galactus at that point, right? Like they can get an up and coming new actor, but like someone like the Silver Surfer, I think I would want. I get it. Like Lawrence Fishburne might be a bit older, so I could totally see Keanu Reeves. And I swear I'm not trying to pull from all of the Matrix, but like I do think that Keanu, like they would totally. Did you ever watch the cartoon show? Like there was a cartoon Marvel show that had all their characters, and it was like for kids. It came out somewhere in like maybe like 2010. And they made the Silver Surfer actually talk like a Silver Surfer, and so he was like, gnarly dude, rad, and I was like, dude, that's funny. I like either A, they do that, or they give him a serious, like, you know, kind of like Keanu Reeves tone.
I love the like actual, like, you know, SoCal, like, you know, surfer vibes. That's sick. I like that. I
don't know if that's like like I'm pretty sure people would hate that, but like I could totally see him come up and just be like, hey, dude, was that like Thanos or what, dude? And then
no matter what you do, you're going to make half of the MCU bros like upset.
Right.
And so like just lean into it. Do whatever you want at this point.
Okay, so that is truly balanced like all things should be, right?
Absolutely. Okay. You did fail on the Galactus. The answer we were looking for was Danny DeVito, so I'm going to knock you some points.
Hold on. Danny DeVito you already know there's a better role for Danny DeVito.
MODOK? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, it's MODOK, right? Like, MODOK is the easy one. There's no way Danny... Either that or, you know, randomly you could have Rob McElhenney or whatever, also from the It's Always Sunny crew. I'm down for either.
Fantastic. All right, I'll toss you my question then, because this one is a bit of a thinker, I think.
Okay.
Describe your current state as like your career goals in a Magic card.
So essentially describe where I'm at in my content creator's life.
Yeah.
As a Magic card.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I hope it's not like Hour of Devastation. You know, like
no.
Yeah.
I think right now I'm at the Elder Brain.
Okay.
Like transitioning into year 4, I guess, of content creation full time, and thinking about it like, you know, like I'm always thinking of like what's, you know, there's a lot that's already been done. I don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to content. I just need to put my spin on it and do what I love and put my love into it, right? So I figure, you know, like that's what I'm doing all my time right now, just tanking, spinning my wheels, almost as if, you know, I'm like, like how Elder Brain, when it connects, it essentially wheels the opponent it connects with.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Elder, because I am now 30 years old or 31, and so an Elder weeb, an Elder emo, whatever you want to call it. Like, yeah, so I think I'm right there, and I'm constantly thinking and trying to figure out what there is to like how to break it, right? Not just in Magic, but just in content creation in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, too, we don't get too heavy in our Infinity Gauntlet. It's supposed to be a little lighthearted. But one thing to, like, encourage you guys, especially, I feel like there's so many Magic creators out there, and they're all fantastic people. But one thing that sets, you know, you and Tomer and Seth and Phil apart from other people is, like, just who you are and your personalities. And I think that stuff shines through the content creation. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're not... You know, I don't need to see you juggling discs in the air while you play Magic. Like, we just come to watch you play Magic because you're an entertaining personality.
That'd be pretty hard to do, I won't lie to you.
Yeah, you know, it would be a little rough.
Without playing the Magic.
I love this. Okay, so Isaac's got one for you. He says, if you had the chance to go back and remake one MCU project with your own vision, so your full creative license, do whatever you want with this, what would you go back and quote-unquote fix?
And are we talking like MCU, like the once they got the rights to their stuff? Or are we going back and talking like Fox,
I'm gonna give
Marvel,
you free reign.
Sony,
whatever
Marvel?
You want. Yeah.
Whoa. Now, as you know, it took a long time until comic book movies got good, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I think I liked X-Men 1. I enjoyed Spider-Man 2, but like never to the level that I enjoyed like the MCU the way it is now, like Iron Man and all that, right? So I do think that something that is a little bit of a missed opportunity is, well, let me think here. I mean, I really liked Daredevil, but that guy, like the character, not the terrible movie. Dude, there's a lot, because there's a lot of bad stuff. I mean, there's the really bad Nick Fury movie from the 80s. Like, oh god, I gotta like.
Now you're really reaching back. Yeah,
I gotta pick one of these. Oh man, you know what? I know you kind of just already asked me about it, but like, I think of them all, the one that hasn't had any justice whatsoever. We've had Spider-Man remade, we've seen X-Men remade, and X-Men's coming into the MCU for obvious reasons. I won't spoil it. I don't know how we do spoilers on this podcast. But,
you're fine. Go ahead.
So I can talk about it.
I think at this point,
because you know what I'm talking about, right?
The series has been out for long enough.
Okay,
I don't know.
So we'll just go with the conclusion of a certain recent Disney Plus show. Yeah. I won't point out. We know that mutants are coming. So I think the only thing that hasn't had justice is either The Incredible Hulk, which I can't wait to see. Like, I really like Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, but we haven't had him have his own movie, right? We've seen him guest cameo in all these shows, these movies, like, with She-Hulk coming out. And I really like Mark Ruffalo, and I want to see him take over, because the biggest thing that I had a gripe with most of the Marvel movies that have been made with Hulk. The Eric Bana one. That one is just terrible, because you didn't see the Hulk until the last 15 minutes. And then the Edward Norton one, you see him, but like, I'm kind of tired of seeing the Hulk being like, the smash kind of guy. I like seeing where they're exploring his character arc now, where he's like this smart green like Hulk. I like that. Yeah. So I want to see where he goes from there, or I guess this is cheating, but actually I think Fantastic Four. Right, because Fantastic Four just hasn't. I think my answer actually is Fantastic Four, because we haven't had a single actual good representation of them, except for whether or not the internet agrees. I loved a certain cameo in a certain recent Doctor Strange movie. Fully. I mean, you can't go on the internet without that being spoiled. I feel like you're fair talking about that right now. Okay, seeing John Krasinski being fan casted for so long, and then, like seeing him in the suit, which I thoroughly loved, by the way, but some of the internet did not like the way the Fantastic Four suit looked in Multiverse of Madness, but I thoroughly loved that. I thought that was sweet. I mean, it's no Future Foundation outfit, but like, you know what? I'll take it, right? And I think it looks really good, because we're not getting the weird, corny... I'm happy that we're not getting some weird, corny, like the 80s one or the comic book original one, because I think the comic book is great because it's a comic book, but it needs to be updated with a little bit more grit and texture and detail, and that's what the Multiverse of Madness version did. But both the movies have been trash. The second one that Josh Trank did, I don't know what happened there. It clearly felt like the first 5 minutes were like, oh, Josh Trank made this, and then the rest of the movies, like Sony or Fox stepped in and was just like, you know what? We don't want that. We want this. Plant X, Y, and Z. Doctor Doom looks terrible. The wig on Invisible Woman was obviously a wig. The Thing was, I guess, painful. I don't know. Like the only thing that was good was the Human Torch. I feel like every movie, it's only been the Human Torch. Like Chris Evans, now Cap, was also the best part of the Ian Grode or whatever, the original Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba, because we know that Galactus was not good. So, and I think that the reason why I would go back and I would remake the Fantastic Four is because the Fantastic Four introduces a lot. It introduces a whole lot to the world that they're trying to explore now, especially with the multiverse saga and stuff like that. And I can't wait to see, I can see why they're putting a little bit of urgency on trying to find that director for the new movie and all that, because Fantastic Four explores all these dimensions, worlds, introduces you Doctor Doom, which has its own things. There's a lot that can be tied to the negative zone, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd love to see Fantastic Four done well, including Silver Surfer, and please, not a fart cloud Galactus that I actively try to forget, but can't.
And we have a ranking system.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
So we do 0 to 6, 6 Infinity Stones, 6 Infinity Bros. And if we all rank something like horribly, if everyone ranks it a 1 or a 0, it's called Fanfortastic because of that horrible, like, multi-dimensional reboot that they did. Oh my gosh, the Michael B. Jordan one, it was so awful. And so that's our floor. That's like, okay, we can't get, because even like Daredevil was rough, but we got some really cool Evanescence tracks out of that. So.
Sure, yeah, we got Evanescence out of that, I guess, if that's a redeeming factor. Sure, whatever. Yeah. I will admit, though, okay, if you just on a quick touch up before deviating too much, the Josh Trank, the second Fantastic Four, the remake, right? If like the rest of the hour and 40, like the first 15 minutes, and you ignore the last hour 40, I think it's actually kind of cool, right? It starts off fine.
We'll see what happens going forward. I hope you and I are right. I hope we get a absolutely amazing Fantastic Four movie. I hope they continue with John Krasinski. Could you imagine the backlash if he's not Mr. Fantastic anymore? If they cast somebody else and say like, no, that was just from Multiverse of Madness, we would flip our lids.
I mean, that's what it feels like right now. It's just like, Kevin Feige and everyone like acknowledging the fan cast because, like the way that they interviewed, it's like nobody even knew John Krasinski was in it so you could tell that was one of the reshoots. So
yeah. And we know too, like with Tom Holland being part of the MCU, like they have to keep everything under wraps because that boy will spill his guts at a moment's notice. All right, moving on. The next question comes to us from Robbie. He says fan cast 3 Planeswalkers for a live action Magic film. 3 seems like a bit much. If you want to do 1, do 1. But if you want to do 3, do 3.
For a fan cast of any character?
Of a specific Planeswalker for a live action Magic the Gathering film.
Right, I can pick the Planeswalkers? Okay. I think, first off, what would be really cool is because, I like him in villainous roles, and we assume that it's all CGI, but Nico Bolas, voiced by Hugo Weaving.
Dope, yeah.
I think that'd be really cool. Either that or I could see Christoph Waltz, just because Christoph Waltz has like that smart, like, kind of that tone to the way he talks, right? So that'd be my Bolas choice. 2 very different voice actors, but two that would fit regardless. And then
both threatening and powerful and intellectual, and I'm with you.
Exactly. And then I think after that, let me see here. Who? I feel like I want to cast Keanu Reeves as often as I can in everything.
Yeah, do it.
So I'm just like curious who Keanu Reeves would play, and like Gideon is like only because he has long hair, but actually by build and all that in character, that's not Keanu, right? So I think Keanu's probably like Jace.
Yeah,
Keanu is way more of a Jace.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Like, I think that's got to be an easy one. And then I'd love to see, like, Zoe Saldana as, like, Vivian Reed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? Like, that'd be kind of cool. Or a Kiora, because Zoe Saldana's already played a blue girl and then played a green one. So why not?
It's natural, yeah.
Yeah. May as well just let her get cast in that role. You know what I mean?
God forbid she doesn't have to spend like a day getting
in makeup.
Every time she's on screen. Yeah.
Bless her for going through all of that makeup, seriously.
And she did it for you, Crim. She did it all for you.
Yeah. Woo!
All right. Last question comes from the enigma of the podcast, none other than Zane.
Okay.
Zane says, in Ghostbusters, when asked to choose the form of the Destructor, Ray accidentally thinks of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. If you were in that exact same situation and you were trying not to think of something scary, what would pop up? What would the Destructor be formed into?
Honestly, the problem here is that I think if you told me to not think of something scary, naturally I would think of something scary, but at the same time, it's not scary anymore because of the way memes and TikToks and all that work nowadays. It'd probably be like Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers. Just because of how humorous they are now. Like, I used to be terrified of them as a kid, but now I think of all the dancing TikToks of Michael Myers, and I'm just imagining, like, Michael Myers doing, like, the flossing and all that stuff. So I actually think for me to not be afraid, I'd have to see Michael Myers, just because
he's like so 20 stories tall and, doing the Fortnite loser dance.
Yeah, exactly. Flossing on people after a kill. And, like, I think one of the most humorous TikToks I saw recently was, like, or it's not recent, but it's a while ago, and it was like like
Sure.
interviewing Michael Myers on how he stays so fit and how he always gets to everybody's car before the person does. And he's just like, he just looks at the screen and like just straight up stares right into the camera and says, "Good work ethic. I work out," and I'm just like, dude, good work ethic. God damn, that's hilarious. I love that.
He's locked in, yeah.
Yeah, he's just in the zone.
That's fantastic. I love it. Well, Crim, with much fanfare, everybody's celebrating at home. You can't hear them because it was recorded ahead of time. But you did survive the Infinity Gauntlet.
Just barely.
There's a little hit or miss there, but yeah, you did it. The fact that Danny DeVito didn't come up at all.
That's because he's MODOK. He's MODOK. Right. Why would he play anything else but MODOK?
That is so good. I will say, like,
him or Arnim Zola, right? But like they already casted Arnim Zola, so.
Oh gosh, it was meant to be. You did. That is the perfect casting. I will say that. All right, let's roll into talking a little bit about what the people are here for, which is some of the Phase 4 stuff we got.
Okay.
I want to just, before we touch on that, what is your experience with Marvel? How did you get into this? Were you a longtime comic book fan? And on top of that, like, what are the things that you like to see from these movies and TV shows and properties?
Okay, so I guess I've been a Marvel fan, like since, what is it? They recently announced they're remaking it, but X-Men 99 or whatever, the original run of that. Oh, yeah. Right? The iconic theme song, all that stuff. Yep. See, I'm a fan of all of that, and I think that's what got me down the road, like, got me hooked. It was a mixture of that and all the cool toys that would come out in the 90s. The Ghost Rider toys that would, like, glow in the dark. Like you'd have Ghost Rider and you'd have all the characters that's supporting him, like Blackheart, all of that, yada, yada, yada. And they were some of the coolest toys, right? And as a kid, you know, naturally, skeleton dude on a motorcycle with like flaming chain. That's badass. I don't know what the story is, but so I was familiar with the properties as a kid. But then I don't think I got into comic books probably until like my middle school years, to like 8th grade going into freshman year. So only because, you know, I didn't have an allowance until then. So that was mostly why. And I never cared to read anything if it wasn't like Animorphs or at the Scholastic Book Fair. And most of those always never had comic books. So I think came high school, that's when I really got into it. I used to go to my local comic book store every Wednesday, pick up new titles. At one point, I put just pretty much every Marvel title on my pull list. And I read everything, including the bad stuff. Like, there were some stinkers, but, you know, I read that, and then I read a good amount of DC. I was way more selective with DC because I felt like their comics weren't that good at the time I got into it, except for, like, a select few, like Azrael, Zatanna, all of that stuff. So I've always been around the properties, but, yeah, to say I think I truly got into it around high school because that's when I started buying the essentials, reading all the back issues of, like, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, you know, all that stuff. And then I worked my way forward to more modern heroes at the time, at least, which would be like Deadpool and stuff like that. So, yeah, since then, I've been reading comics, watching the movies, collecting the toys since for like ever. One of my jobs that I got was exclusively just to pull Marvel Legends figures, and that was Toys R Us. I used to work at the Toys R Us just to have first dibs on figurines.
Wow.
And that's so dedication. Yeah. I remember one year it was when Wolverine Origins came out, which was a mistake of a movie, but there was the toy line that actually released the comic book accurate Deadpool. It was like a mini, like 6-inch figure or so like that, and I bought all of them. And then I felt really bad when this little kid came up and he was like, "Hey, do you have any of this figure left?" I'm like, "No, we sold out.
They're all in my garage."
Yeah. I bought them all. I'm sorry. But
that's fantastic.
But yeah, like I've been following that since forever. Although I fell off closer to when Cap became Hydra, and all that stuff. Like, I mean, that was when I fell off the comic books, but I stayed on, like, you know, the world of movies and maybe like one-offs. Like right now I got back on, so I'm reading Strange Academy, and I'm reading the current Daredevil, Moon Knight, and you know, stuff like that. I've fallen off the major characters because of, like, you know, like Cap. Like, essentially, when you think of the big three, I've kind of fallen off on them, like Thor, Cap, Iron Man, all that stuff. Doctor Strange has always been my number one, though. He's always been my favorite. Then it goes Iron Man, and then it goes Deadpool. So, yeah, love those characters and have been following, I guess, since then.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I was going to ask you what your top three were, but we kind of got that. And great runs, too. Obviously, like, we've talked about Strange Academy. Fantastic. And then Chip Darsky with Daredevil. That man is doing some things like, holy cow, that run is fantastic.
That is very good run. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. And then I remember I went to my local comic book store, and then they were just like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. Just read this. And then they kind of like preempted, like, you're gonna probably want me to pull these trades for you. So they got me volumes 2, 3, and 4, and I was like, let's just wait until I finish reading.
Hold off,
like, yeah. And then they're like, sure, we'll just put it in your box anyways. I'm like, okay, sure. I read it, and I called them like 24 hours. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna need those. I'm gonna need those right now.
I totally get it. And Jed McKay is doing Moon Knight, and he's one of my personal favorites. He's also doing Magic as well. And
right.
Guy does not miss. Like, Moon Knight is my bread and butter. That was the first comic book I ever bought when I was in middle school. And so, like,
I
this
still
year
have
has
my
been a
Werewolf
treat for
by
me.
Night first
No
appearance.
way.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
CG Seed 7.5. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow. I no longer have that title. I actually sold my original copy to pay for my wedding back 7 years ago, but that's one thing that I've always wanted to get back around to.
That's always a-okay. I mean, I assume that someday the time will come and I'll have to sell my Journey to Mystery 110, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right, like the time will come.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So longtime comic book fan. Well, middle school, is what, 20 years ago for us now?
Yeah, oh my god, yeah.
And so, like, 20 years of comics is pretty substantial.
It is. And getting into Silver Age key issue collecting in high school is absurd because, like, I was getting like $20 a week or so. So, like, it would be like a year and then I would get an unslabbed comic book, which are now worth a lot more and sell for a lot more. But, like, back then they didn't. They weren't that much. I think, like, I bought like my Iron Man Tales of Suspense 39 like right when I got into college, which cost me roughly about like $2.5 to $3,000, which is like absurdly cheap compared to how much it is now. So
the fact that, like, there's a lot of people who are coming into this later, and, like, we're not here to gatekeep. If you like Marvel now, like Marvel now. Like, who are we to say otherwise? But
please, I'd rather have more people to talk to about these things, right? Yeah, I'd love that.
The fact that this is the stuff. I mean, I was bullied a lot in high school and middle school because, like, I was a nerd, man. I had an original Game Boy that I would take with me to lunch and play Pokemon on that. And, like, people thought I was lame as hell. And now all that is super cool. Like, I show off my comic books and the same people who are like, this is dumb, are now into this stuff. So, like, man, that's awesome that you get into it early, stock up, you have these cool things to show off, and then
you made fun of me, but I've got this pocket of value over here.
I'm loaded, man, all because of this comic book.
Honestly, I totally get that. In like high school, I hid that I loved anime. I definitely hid that I loved anime and comic books in high school and whatnot. And it wasn't until college that I finally was just like, I grew out of it. I was like, I don't really care if you think I'm weird or not. And it just happened to be lining up with when the momentum was like, oh, nerd culture is in.
That's the thing too, is like, I assume, because we're about the same age, I assume we're in college around the same time. When the first Avengers came out, suddenly, like, cried. Everybody was calling me up and being like, hey, what's this about? Who are the Avengers? Like,
who's the purple guy? Who's the purple guy?
Right.
I got that call every 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh. And like, to think that, like, when I was in middle school, I bought my first comic ever was issue like 36 or 37 of the original Moon Knight run, right? So where he bumps into the Fantastic Four or whatever.
Wait, is this the Michael Bendis run? Brian Michael Bendis run?
No. This is way before.
Way back then? Okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the Bendis run is... People are very hot and cold on that, but...
People love or hate Bendis. There's no... I don't think I know anyone that actually, like it's like, hey, he's all right.
he's okay. I take him. But the fact that, like, middle school Jarret at that time, I thought this was, like, the most niche thing on the planet, right? My parents thought it was weird that I collected this, but they were cool about it. And now, like... in 2022, we had a Moon Knight series with Oscar Isaac. And if I told middle school Jarret that, like, I would never believe you. And my parents watched it. My grandparents are watching the MCU. This is wild.
I totally get that feeling because half the things that I'm still amazed that I get to see Doctor Strange on screen, right? Like this is and then back then you got into a character that I would consider also pretty niche. Not many people liked Moon Knight back way back because I got Werewolf by Night for like $150.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, like the first appearance, 32, is like I got it for like $150, $200. That was it.
People had never heard it. Like when they announced the series, even like some of my diehard Marvel fans were like, I think I saw this guy in Original Sin for a panel or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's wild. So let's talk a little bit about what that's like for you as well. We're in phase 4 now, but I want to talk about the lead up to that. How do you feel everything is building up into phase 4? And then we'll talk about sort of how phase 4 has treated you. But what do you think about the MCU as it stands right now?
As it stands right now, I get it. There's a lot of people that are going, like, it's now a known thing when any new Marvel project comes out, cinema Twitter comes out and like, kind of like, oh, this is trash, Martin Scorsese, all the directors.
Director, yeah.
Yeah, they've got something to say because they're salty that, like these movies are outselling and making more bank than ever, right? But I feel like as of where it stands, for the most part, for how many movies and how much stuff they're putting out, we're of course, I'm not going to ignore like the issues, like the claims against Marvel and like the terrible like work schedule they've got for the CGI department, because like they need to address that and fix that now. Because first off, you literally get paid buckets. Like buckets for your
It's
movie.
not like you can't afford it.
Yeah,
for sure.
You're a small indie company. Disney also is your your higher up. So so the fact that you cannot pay a VFX studio efficiently and an appropriate amount is upsetting. As a Marvel fanboy, that's painful to hear, right? But if we're talking about the amount of movies and shows and content they're just jamming right now, they have, for the most part, had an absurdly high success rate. When you think about it, the worst Marvel movie to me is still entertaining. Like the only movie that I have felt watching from Marvel, like main MCU Marvel line, that I feel like I didn't get my price of admission was The Eternals.
Okay, yeah. I feel like that's a fair criticism.
That's the only one that I felt like that I did not get my money's worth. I'm not saying that Thor: The Dark World is like S tier higher than anything else or like the Norton Hulk. I'm just saying that at least when I watched those, I had fun and turned my brain off and just kind of enjoyed it, right? Like it was okay. But overall, when you think about how many things they're putting out a year, that's amazing to only have one terrible miss. Now, maybe like, cinema Twitter and cinema like demographics will say, well, I felt like a lot of them are bad because they're just the same thing over and over, same color palettes. But I'm like, are we watching the same movie? Because like I get it when it comes to the Infinity Saga because it all has to tie into the Infinity stuff, right? So I get it, sure. But like, I don't think Marvel has had like, people just see it as a superhero thing, and that's the umbrella term, but they don't see, like, example, I recently saw Thor: Love and Thunder. That's like the rom-com. Multiverse of Madness is the horror approach, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have, like, all of these cool, like, you have, like, Shang-Chi. And then, I mean, there's just so many things within the Marvel universe that are just, I can really appreciate. Like, there's different flavors of Marvel, and I really like that. They're doing justice of what the comic books are because the comics span over multiple genres, right? And I really like how they're covering that. So I'm hoping Fantastic Four is the sci-fi. Like, Loki kind of gave me that sci-fi that I really... That's why Loki is, like, my favorite show. It is, like, the sci-fi I'm looking for. I thought Guardians would be that, but Guardians just feels like Star Wars done by Marvel. Right. Yeah, but like outside of that, I feel like Loki is the best sci-fi thing that they've kind of put out, and I can't wait to see what Fantastic Four does. So overall, I'm absurdly happy. I've enjoyed how they've built up, obviously, Infinity Saga. That was flawless because I think they did a good job covering and doing that arc justice. Right? Maybe we didn't have Adam Warlock, with the Soul Stone, but I like how they've changed certain parts to where it still fits, it works, it doesn't feel like it loses the spirit of what they originally had, right? And that's why I can really appreciate what they've done, because I don't mind that Crimson Dynamo and like, you know, Whiplash got fused into one, right? Because I mean, those are two, like, Iron Man doesn't even really have that great of villains. His biggest villain is himself. So like
his road gallery is him.
Exactly. His best villain is himself. And that's why I think that I love every change and I've accepted every change. And like, you know, it's definitely been flavorful. And then Phase 4, this has been the probably the most like, you know, like hot and cold like response, right? People either love it or hate it, and I'm on the camp of loving it because this is where Marvel has now established who they are. They're like, yo, we don't have to worry anymore. We've done what we needed to do, and we know our movies are solid. So they let their directors run wild. And this is where Phase 4 has felt like it has explored some of the wilder concepts. It's also been like stylistically amazing. Like Sam Raimi, you don't bring Sam Raimi on to ask him to do, you know, Sam Raimi's take on Kevin Feige's vision. You ask him to do Sam Raimi. And that's exactly what we got with Multiverse of Madness, right? And down to like there's even a book, like an evil book that you have to chase down, you know, not mentioning any certain more like, you know, Raimi properties, but it's got the corny dialogue, the hilarious camera angles, and like, you know, that introspective scene where they're like sitting there, you know, with the candles lit and, you know, talking about how like they can do like dimensional like possession and stuff like that in a Multiverse of Madness. That was like the most Raimi thing I've ever seen. Down to like Eternals, Chloe Zhao, you see a lot of like her directorial like prowess, and yeah, so I've just loved everything about Phase 4 when it comes to the style, and I think what it's all leading to is going to be a lot to see on screen, but I'm excited to see how it unfolds, right? Like the multiverse saga is going to be something that is huge, right? We already saw that with No Way Home. That was amazing seeing Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland all on screen together. Like we have been around like now long enough to see all three Spider-Man, right? And that is just an amazing sight. So I'm loving this, and I'm like, I know people say that Marvel's not exploring new grounds because they still have the same like Marvel humor, right?
Sure.
But that humor is sprinkled across like very creative ideas. Like the ability to do what they're doing right now is something I would have never imagined as a kid, ever.
And we see a lot of criticism, and obviously like it's becoming more and more prominent. Not to point fingers at Tomer, but whatever. But the
Tomer.
big things are like, yeah, but Tomer, we're calling you out, bud. But the big things are like, you know, people say that these movies aren't cinema, and yet Endgame was a cultural phenomena. Like, my grandparents saw Endgame. You know what I mean? My cousins saw it. Like, everybody I know went out and did this. And so to say, like, this is not culturally impactful, it's just wild. And then to say that these movies are all the same, and you pointed this out, like, Shang-Chi is a love letter to Kung Fu movies, right?
Yeah.
Sam Raimi did Sam Raimi stuff in Multiverse of Madness. And I think this is the point. Phase 4 is really where they're trying new things and seeing what sticks and seeing what doesn't. And for the most part, like, there's an audience for every single one of these properties. Even if everyone isn't a big hit. And, you know, I think the one that really took off for most people was Loki.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, there's not a single one of these that didn't land with somebody, right? I may be the only, like, Hawkeye apologist, and I know there's flaws in that series, but it still did something for me. And so the fact that, like, going forward, they have this opportunity to pull in directors who you might not expect in the MCU and give them that free reign, I think that's something that's pretty cool. Let's kick into, you know, kind of what's coming down the pipeline. Obviously, we're at the end of Phase 4. All that we have left is She-Hulk, which is premiering here soon, and then Wakanda Forever, which that has, beyond, like, you know, the stakes of the MCU and the in-universe stuff that's going to happen in Wakanda Forever. Obviously, like, the big question on everybody's mind is, like, what does this look like after the death of Chadwick Boseman? Like, how does this honor his legacy and the things that he built? And so just real quick, what do you think about She-Hulk? And then we'll follow that up with, you know, how are you feeling about Wakanda Forever and some of the things that we've seen in the early trailers for that?
Okay, well, I'm first off, definitely, I was extremely concerned with She-Hulk when it came to the CGI, because that looked awful. like actually awful. And you could tell like work schedules are getting ahead of people, right? But I will say this, like what they've shown me when it comes to like the dialogue and the fun spirit of the show, it just seems like a fun, hilarious, Marvelized Law and Order.
Sure.
So I think that stuff is great to see, and I can't wait to see what cameos make it, because at first the first thing I heard was like we were getting a She-Hulk show. The first thing that needed to happen was I needed to see Daredevil and She-Hulk go at it in the courtroom in some way, shape, or form.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then they confirmed it in the trailer that Daredevil will be returning with a cameo, and now I'm excited to see
with the yellow suit too. Yeah,
yeah, like I like we're talking like the whether or not the yellow suit is cool. I've always been like, does it look good that you look like a mustard like all the time? But
yeah.
Okay, whatever. But regardless, I am excited to see Daredevil's return. I'm excited to see She-Hulk and what they do with her, and I like the fun comedy that they're running with it. And I like, have you seen the recent trailer where they try to spin off the Law and Order, like dun dun, right? Like the gavel hit. Yeah, like they're aware of what they're doing. So this looks like it's going to be some kind of like Marvelized courtroom comedy, and I can get down with that. So that is really.
It feels like a Marvelized like Ally McBeal or those style shows. Yeah, I'm with it.
And that's all I can ask for when it comes to like the spirit of the show and the way it's written, the dialogue and the comedy. However, I do worry about the visuals. Like, again, this is one of those things where the visuals are super hit or miss. Like, I saw that through Moon Knight. Some of the episodes, I love the show, but some of the episodes, some of the CGI is bad, dude. It's rough, bad. And then
we talked about this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, yeah, and then it shifts back to like being like, whoa, that looks amazing. And then it's like, okay, well, on the cutting room floor, clearly something's happening, right?
We talked about this a little bit too with Hawkeye, where David Aja, who was one of the main like inspirations, obviously the Fraction and Aja run was what the whole Hawkeye series was based around. And the guy didn't see a single penny. And it's crazy because this is clearly like from the title screen to everything going on, like this is their work that's being, and obviously Disney owns the rights to this stuff. So it's not like legally they have to pay anything. But at the end of the day, like you're not struggling for money. You're Disney. Like, pay your workers, man. Pay these people. And so when you see the CGI struggle like this, I'm like, one, hire more people. Pay the people that you have. But like, fix it. You're Disney. I don't know. It's wild.
And like people are saying like, well, it's like I get it. Like I love Marvel and I will stand up for them. But like when people are like, well, it's a TV show. You should be expecting a TV show budget. No one complains about The Flash on CW and it's CGI. I'm like, dude, everybody hates The Flash's CGI.
We tear The Flash apart.
Yeah, it's awful. But just the show is like, I guess, enjoyable for the first season. And then, but Marvel is... They've shown that they've got the budget. They've done it with some of the shows like WandaVision, amazing. Loki, oh my God, that was gorgeous. And then you could just tell that there was just an increase in workload and it starts declining, right? Like when did the decline start? I think the decline started roughly around probably Hawkeye. I think Hawkeye. But Hawkeye wasn't as noticeable because it's still Hawkeye, right? You're not seeing as much. But then it became real apparent in Moon Knight. Right? And then it got much worse in parts of Ms. Marvel. And so I really like these shows, but the CGI, like, come on. Just, I don't know what you were doing for the first 3 series. WandaVision was stellar. Falcon and Winter Soldier may not like the show as a whole, but, like, it looked good. So it fell off somewhere. And now they need to figure out what they're doing because it is bad.
And here's the thing I'm looking at, too, is like, this is the same studio that's putting out The Mandalorian, right?
Right.
They have the volume, which is their big, LED panel. The visual effects in that were amazing. The fact that they had that actor played Luke. I can't remember if it was his
Mark
son
Hamill?
or somebody related.
Oh.
No, the young Luke
version.
Skywalker. And then they did the deep fake or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that looked phenomenal. And, how can you not bring this into your Marvel properties, which are outselling Star Wars right now?
Yeah. How's your hottest, property not getting the, eyes? You should be making sure that this is consistent over here. Instead of giving me Boba Fett's terrible sideshow or something
Oh,
like that.
my gosh, that was rough.
Yeah. That was
So She-Hulk, obviously, like, we're excited for the writing. Storyline looks great. CGI needs work.
the updated though. The updated CGI?
Yeah, it does look better.
Better, but
Better, not great.
yeah.
Wakanda Forever. Obviously, everything that had to do with the original Black Panther movie was a cultural phenomenon. Everybody stopped and watched that movie. Obviously, the biggest part of that was Chadwick Boseman absolutely captured our hearts. Like, I mean, the man just put his heart into everything that he did.
From when he showed up in Civil War, like, God, yes.
And so, obviously, everybody was taken off guard by his passing. And the big question was, like, how do we go forward with this, right? Because we don't want it to be a petty cash grab. We needed to pay respect to who the man was. And, you know, ultimately, at the end of the day, this concern over the MCU aspects of Black Panther took backseat to, like, paying respect to who Chadwick Boseman was and the legacy that he left. And so, obviously, directorially, this is in great hands. You couldn't pick a better person to direct this. And so what are your thoughts going forward into Wakanda Forever and the early trailers that we've seen of that?
So the first trailer we saw, at least the one that came out of, like, Comic-Con, it looks like right now there's a lot of eyes off of the Black Panther from the trailer and more focusing on the world around Black Panther, right? Between, like, you know, like M'Baku and all of them, right? Like, you kind of just see the differences, but like around everybody within Wakanda, right? And I think I can get down with that, but, like, it's kind of a tough line to walk, because how do you go into a Black Panther movie and not have a Black Panther immediately, right? And this is obviously they were blindsided by such an unfortunate event, and, like, you have, like, the fan base split. Do you recast? Do you not recast? I personally like that they have not recast. I really like the route they're going with not recasting. I do have my theories, though, about who I think is the new Black Panther. And I think it's Nakia.
Okay.
Because the way the little, like, you see a glimmer, just a little sliver of the new Black Panther outfit, right? The black and gold.
Right.
But the way the physique and everything looks, it leads me to believe it's Nakia as opposed to, like, Killmonger, right? Because it is black and gold. So some people are me like, is this Killmonger? It's like, well, the physique tells me that it's not. And I think it makes sense that it'd be Nakia. Just from a, like, when you think about who the characters are and her relation to T'Challa and whatnot. So it would just naturally go to her. And I hope it's not Shuri. Not because, I mean, I know in the comic books that, yeah, Shuri eventually gets the mantle, but, you know, there's other things going on outside of with Shuri. So
yeah,
I think the best person here has to be Nakia. And, like the other characters just don't feel like they would fit in the role, right? Like, it would feel weird if M'Baku just took over and whatnot. So Nakia makes sense.
And if we bring back, because we've talked about this at length on the podcast too, and a lot of people are like, you know, what if it's Killmonger? And Disney does this with all of their Marvel properties, where they kill off a villain, and it's like 50-50 if they stay dead or not. And I feel like the ending of Black Panther was so well done that it almost takes away from that if you were to bring Killmonger back and be like, all right, now he's the Black Panther.
Yeah, that would cheapen his death for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'd get down with that. But I could, like... God, I mean, I liked Killmonger a lot. Like, that was great.
And Michael B. Jordan is fantastic, so we wouldn't complain there. Phase 4, pretty much wrapped up here. You know, we have the 2 properties left, and then we're at the end of it. Going forward, you know, everything kind of gets wild. We have stuff with Kang in the multiverse. Mm-hmm. We have Quantumania. There are rumblings of a Young Avengers / Champions movie.
Right.
And then all these other things with Secret Invasion. What are you most excited for post Phase 4? Like, going forward, what's the direction that you see the MCU happening?
So post Phase 4, we kind of got a little bit of a look at that, right? And so the Kang Dynasty and all this stuff, all this has me really, really excited for Ant-Man.
Nice, yeah.
So here I'll explain why. Ant-Man has a lot with the quantum realm and all this other stuff, right? So I think Ant-Man, and I think this is a smart decision. I know they moved a lot of the Phase 4 slate around because of COVID, right? But Ant-Man makes a lot of sense to start off Phase 5 because that's how you could introduce the Fantastic Four, where they've been this whole time. There's the quantum realm can serve as a way to be like, where did all the mutants come from, right? All this other stuff. So I really like what Ant-Man brings when it comes to like the elements at play, what they have access to, right? And on top of that, I just really love Paul Rudd, so I will take any chance to watch Paul Rudd. Like, I feel like the Ant-Man movies are underrated, by the way, and I love them.
Agreed.
But yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm obviously excited for there's speculation Shang-Chi 2 is going to be somewhere in there. Doctor Strange 3 is got still some of the unannounced projects. But most importantly, I'm excited to see what happens with Kang. I just want to see Kang and go to battle and you're going to see, I assume, a good Kang fighting a bad Kang. You're going to see all the different timeline of Kangs. A lot like Rick and Morty, for those that haven't followed the comics. It's going to be like the Council of Ricks, but I assume it's just going to be Kang everywhere, right? And that's what I want to see. I want to see how they pull actors from different universes, if they will. Maybe I'm building it up for myself here, but I would love to see them randomly get Hugh Jackman in, right? Like as Wolverine with maybe the new Wolverine. You already know it's been confirmed that apparently Tobey Maguire, I think, or not confirmed, but I feel like there's a lot of speculation that Tobey Maguire is already doing something with or maybe it's Andrew Garfield, one of the other Spider-Men. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. And this is just stuff I'm reading online, so I don't know how verifiable it is, But if that's the case, I do hope we get to see Anna Paquin come in as the Rogue, the Fox Marvel stuff, the Sony Marvel stuff. Hell, even throw in a Ben Affleck Matt Murdock. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? Give me the full memes, right? Give me the full meme and the most
uncomfortable leather suit.
Yeah.
Oh
that's what I want to see. I don't need it to be I don't need Kang to hit me in the heart like how Thanos did. They did a very good job giving him the hero's journey in Infinity Wars, right? He is, when you think about it the writing standpoint, the hero's journey follows Thanos. Everyone else is actually the villain, right? Of that first event, of the final the first of the final Avengers movie. And so I don't need that to come into play for the Kang Dynasty. Give me a Kang that is just different variations of him, but I want to see different variations of everybody. Lots of multiverse travel, time travel, lots more cosmic. I want to see the Celestials. We've kind of seen a little bit more of them with Ragnarok, the Living Tribunal. We saw Eternity. I guess, am I allowed to say that? Well, edit that out if we're not allowed to say that, but we saw a few other things. But if you're a Doctor Strange fan, this stuff is hype as hell, right? Everything that I've loved reading in Doctor Strange is on full display here in Phase 4 forward. So this is why I feel like Doctor Strange is like the Tony Stark of Phase 4 moving forward. He plays the mentor role, the father figure to Peter Parker. And, he feels like he's kind of the center point of a lot of things moving forward. And I assume that's going to stay true. That and Ant-Man, so I think those two, if the focus is on those two, I'm happy. So... yeah, I'm loving this. I'm loving what could be. None of these things are announced yet, but if it is Doctor Strange 3, is the end of Multiverse of Madness and who they introduced. Oh,
you're getting really good at this, skipping the spoilers.
Yeah. And who they introduce. I'm so excited. I need the third movie now, and it better be Sam Raimi doing this movie. So that's all I'm saying.
And oh gosh, we've done it. We've spoiled this movie already. But if you are still interested in being spoiler free, skip forward 10 seconds or whatever. But the fact that they had Anson Mount come in as Black Bolt,
yeah,
anything is on the table now, right? Because I thought those properties were absolutely dead in the water. They would never
even
touch it again.
The Inhumans came
for
back.
good reason,
God.
right? So at this point, if you were to tell me, he comes back as Old Man Logan, I believe you. If you were to tell me that you get the Spider-Verse and you get Spider UK and all that, I would fully believe you at this point because we've seen everything.
Michael Fassbender, I loved his Magneto, so I want that. Hell, you could bring back Thomas Jane and his Punisher.
Oh my god, the world is really your oyster at that point. You could do whatever you want. If Anson Mount can come back, anybody can come back.
If the Inhumans made their way back, anything can happen because the Inhumans were awful. So
the only thing I think they leave alone. Oh gosh, I hope they don't touch any of I'm trying to think of what the word don't touch any of the weird fan-fortastic stuff. Michael B. Jordan has a different role. Leave that be. Yeah. What else could they bring back that would be pretty rough? I think that's about it, right? I don't know. They've had some hit or miss ones along the way, but yeah, I mean, they can redeem it. If they can redeem Anson Mount, I'm not sure there's much else that they could, having the fan-fortastic stuff, I think you leave alone. But other than that, I really think the world is their oyster. As long as Fox and Sony are willing to play ball with them. Yeah. And I don't know the legality of some of that stuff. But I think we get a battle world. I think we get these alternate versions of these people that we've seen throughout history in sort of a multiversal style. Yeah. And seeing that in Phase 4, I think, or Phase 5 is what I'm really excited for. Sort of these cameos of MCU properties that we've seen and respected over the years. Dang, there's so much they could do with this.
This is the problem, right? People view this as an issue, not this is a bug to them, not a feature. And I think it's amazing because as a comic book fan, this is what comic books are like, right? There's a new character that pops in. I know that if you're talking old Marvel, initially when it came out, cameos were a lot more rare and it would be the selling point of an issue. But when you think about comic books moving forward from after 2000, dude, everybody is in there's a cameo every page.
Team ups constantly.
Yeah, so I think this is now getting as they are making every comic book nerd's dream come true here. So if I get it, they've changed some of the parts of the origin stories and some of the powers of certain characters, but dude, this is unreal. We are getting a very comic booky arc coming up here. This is going to be a little more weird, and I imagine it's going to come off as super fan servicey, but that's kind of just how this arc is going to just play out, and I'm okay with that.
And I think we've lost people along the line anyways who weren't, I don't want to say dedicated, but the people who are no longer interested in Marvel have already kind of moved on. And that's fine. Enjoy your other properties and hopefully something draws you back. But at this point, people want to see new and different. And to some degree, they've been delivering that, right? We talked about it. Shang-Chi is a love letter to all these different kung fu movies. And right. I think it's important that they explore, because otherwise if it was just the same cookie cutter, this is what Kevin Feige wants, as much as we love and trust Kevin Feige with the MCU, that would get stale pretty fast. Right. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they have going forward. One last thing, and then we'll sort of pivot into closing down, and I have a couple questions I want to leave you with. Okay. If you were to take any property that has not been done yet in the MCU, any of your comic books or an event or something, what would you take and throw it into the existing universe?
Can we redo something?
Sure, we've had that conversation, but take two, I think. Yeah, but I'm with you.
There's one that I loved so much. I mean, okay, if we're saying it hasn't been done yet, I guess House of M. But before House of M, we have to have mutants, right? Yeah. But I'm sorry. I know we already went over this, but it was just a specific movie. However, Civil War.
Really?
I really want the problem is I appreciate the Civil War we got, right? I get it. They didn't have all the rights, but I want that, the Aunt May, scene after Peter reveals who he is. I want the Cap on the steps. There's so many iconic moments there in comic book history from Civil War. It may not have ended well. Trust me, Marvel, I love Marvel, but by God, they do not know how to end a comic book arc. It always ends poorly or it's just real bad. But they know how to start lots of cool things. And Civil War, and I'm not counting Civil War 2 because I haven't read that, but Civil War was one of the coolest comic book arcs, and it made sense, right? Yeah. Think about it. What would be bigger than Thanos? right? I think the only thing that you could follow that up with is probably fighting each other.
Yeah.
Either or, right? Or Thanos could be the end villain, sure, whatever. But I think that Thanos, Civil War has a lot of stories to tell within itself.
See, and that's the thing, too. I love Civil War for what it was, but you're bringing up a very good point, which is like Civil War was an event that had like a massive ripple effect that we still talk about in comic books today.
Right.
To the point where, like, you know, you had the Registration Act, you had the Dark Avengers, you had everything that came out of this one event. And we live in this for, I don't know what the runtime of Civil War is, but it's so like
not even
self-contained. And then they slightly reference it at, like, obviously Ant-Man has the ankle bracelet and stuff, but dang, you bring up a really good point. Like, that should have been more.
The Accords, right? Like, I feel like that was like 2% of the bill that was passed by Tony, right? Because you didn't really get to see the full effects of what Civil War was like in the movie, right? Like, example, if they had done it justice, we'd have a Dark Avengers, like you had mentioned, and with the Dark Avengers, you know what that opens up? That opens up Dark Reign, so Norman Osborn takes over, all this other stuff. So, like, there's so much that you could build on top of if they had fully explored what Civil War was. You got to like, I really am curious to see how good the Thunderbolts can be, because I think the Thunderbolts were at its best after Civil War.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, too, like, just picture, like, there's that iconic scene where Spider-Man flips sides because he kind of realizes what's going on here. And you get him, like, hunted through the subways, which would be phenomenal with the cast that we have now. And then, like, John Bernthal as the Punisher getting absolutely wrecked by Cap, but refusing to fight back. Like, Crim, why have you done this to me?
That's what I'm saying. You see, we miss out on all of that. And, you know, okay, for the first time, maybe it'd be a real thing. You'd get to see Mephisto instead of, like, fan theorying Mephisto every 30 seconds. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, the One More Day stuff, like, that would be that. Oh my God, that would hit so hard. But you see, No Way Home,
especially now.
No Way Home is, I think, the closest thing we're gonna get to One More Day, because of the way No Way Home ends. Right, that's kind of like the Mephisto ending of Civil War and all of that. So I don't know. I mean, if it's not that, then I would love to see, like, Daredevil's Shadowlands. I'd love to see him take over.
Oh my gosh,
the Hand. Right, like, the Hand was really cool. And as I had mentioned, I really want to see Dark Reign, because I want to see what Norman Osborn would be like as a corrupt like the Iron Patriot. Right, you'd have all of that, and, like, Stark's on the run, but of course Stark is dead, so that's not a spoiler. You've had like a billion years to watch Infinity Wars.
If you haven't seen Endgame at this point, yeah,
exactly. But
what are you listening to right now?
Exactly. That's why, like, I want to see that. I want to see, like, Dark Reign. Secret Invasion will be interesting because of how Skrulls are portrayed through Ms. Marvel or Captain Marvel. But I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. But I guess, it'd be Shadowlands, House of M. But to be honest with you, I'd love another crack at Civil War.
Dang, Shadowlands is a deep cut too. I feel like not enough people pay respect to that. That was fantastic.
It was a cool arc.
This is, of the controversial things that MCU fans have, the fact that we're getting the Netflix properties kind of, I don't want to say shoehorned, but merged into the MCU now.
Right.
Kind of leaves that on the table as a possibility. Right. Because they were doing a lot with the Hand before Netflix stuff shut down. How do you feel about Iron Fist? Because I feel like this is the biggest, like, everybody is so against Iron Fist. But Crim, you're a relatively positive guy. You have a lot of good things to say about the MCU.
Iron Fist is the most painful experience that I've actually had to sit through. Like,
I was like, I don't. Dude, he's about to come out here and be like, I'm an apologist, man.
Maybe it wasn't that bad. No, it is that bad.
Okay, good.
The best part of Iron Fist was the last 3 minutes of season 2. And it's like, so if you're telling me I sat through 2 seasons over numerous hours to get 3 minutes of, I guess, some passable stuff,
right?
That's terrible. Remake it, relaunch it. I like recast Danny Rand, like, you know, do all of that. Just completely undo. Or if you're gonna keep Finn or whoever the actor is, please just redo everything story wise, because I want the Immortal Weapons arc. Matt Fraction wrote that,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh
one
my
of
gosh,
the
yeah.
coolest things. Matt Fraction's being one of my favorite comic book writers, between him and Jonathan Hickman for a quite chunk of time when they were on Marvel. And so, like, I think that, yeah, like, it would be amazing to see, like, you know, that that character recast, because Iron Fist has a lot of cool stuff. It has a lot of cool stuff. And again, being able to go and explore Kunlun, like, how is it that we have never got, like, through that whole show, what did we see from Kunlun? Like, nothing. Pretty much.
Second of, like, the outside gate, and that was it.
Yeah, like, nothing. So, pretty much nothing.
Rough. Nothing
Relevant. Nothing mattered. I don't think that anything actually happened in that show other than, Danny Rand saying he was, like, you know, I'm Danny Rand, the sworn enemy of the hand. You know, like, I am the immortal Iron Fist. He just says that whole, like, spiel over, like, 2 seasons, and that's it. It was such a bad show. Luke Cage season 1 was fine. I like who they chose to play Luke Cage, so I'd love to see Michael Coulter back. And I absolutely loved season 1 of Jessica Jones. So to see Jessica Jones come back, you know, Kristen Ritter, please, whatever that last bit of Trish and in the final seasons of Jessica Jones, we can just undo that. I'm willing to Control Z that. And then
That second season was rough.
it was painful. and the Defenders, it never happened. Because it actually never did. The first, what is it, an 8-episode show, and the first 6 episodes are them trying to get together, and there was, like, it wasn't even good.
No chemistry.
Yeah,
that was
zero
rough.
chemistry. It was poorly written. But you know what I am the most excited for, and it is Frank Castle and Daredevil. Those two are the biggest things that I'm excited for. And like an 18-episode season of Daredevil has me hyped, because the biggest issue I've had with Marvel is these random 6-minute or 6-episode series. It just feels like, example, Falcon and Winter Soldier. What is that? What is
It's
that?
so fast.
It's crammed. It feels like it's 3 stories crammed together. The reveal at the end was irrelevant because it just felt like there was no build-up for it to matter. And yeah, like, Loki gets away for being just so cool and exploring new territories. But, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it could have been longer.
It is like it's like 6 to 8 episodes, and then they say it's going to be 60 minutes, and it's always like 35, 40 minutes, and then 20 minutes of credits. And I'm like, what are you doing with this, Marvel? You own the streaming service. Like, make them longer.
Yeah, just extend
it's
it.
so rough.
Like, Moon Knight was amazing, but I cannot deny that how rushed it was. Like, there's so much that was rushed there. It just feels like there's the whole development arc missed. It's just like, here's the dilemma that, you know, Mark Spector has, and then we're already at the end.
And do the like Stranger Things has proven that, like, we're okay waiting for a good product, right? Like, if we have to get 6 episodes now and 6 episodes in a couple months, like, we're willing to wait for that as long as you deliver good properties for those, you know, whatever span of time. Gosh, now I'm on my soapbox again.
Dude, but it's fair though, because, like, these are all, like, real criticisms for Marvel, and, like, I don't understand why they continue to stick to this 6-episode business. Now, I will admit, the Netflix shows, some of them overstayed their welcome. Like, did Daredevil season 2 have to be 13 to, like, 14 episodes? No. It could have. That's one of the shows that could have been, like, 8 to 9 episodes, and I'd have been fine.
I think that's the sweet spot, right? Like, 10 episodes is pretty good as long as you keep them, you know, well written and actually deliver something that, again, like you talked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they had so much that they were trying to do in such a short amount of time. I think that could have been like 2 seasons. I think they tried to do too much too quickly.
Yeah.
Man, for sure.
They crammed those 3 arcs, and it cheapens each one, right? And without playing it out, you lose out on power, like, sweet scenes like Daredevil's. I recently retweeted a scene. It was the Frank Castle and, you know, Matt Murdock scene on top of the rooftop, right? You know, Frank's captured, you know, and, you know, they do the moral, like, back and forth, right? Like, you know, Frank, what happens when you decide, when you be like,
this
you're
is
the
why
person,
I kill,
right?
and yeah,
like that. Those kind of scenes can only happen when you let the story play out. The impact of those moments are when you let the story play out, and it's not forced and crammed and, like, you know, like, super
has to be
up.
earned. Yeah.
And like, the thing is, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier could have had many more of those moments, but it was cheapened by a 6-episode, like, season or 7 episodes.
I'm with you, man. I gotta start to nip this in on the butt a little bit because I feel like I'm sensing a kindred spirit here where you and I could talk Marvel for 6 hours and then just,
Easily, yeah.
I will never see my family again. Your dogs will hate me.
Yeah.
But I do want to get us wrapped up here. But as a diehard Marvel fan and probably one of the most prominent voices in the Magic community right now, the big thing on everybody's mind, especially in Magic, is like Universes Beyond, Secret Lair, all this other stuff. So if you were to take these two loves that you have, right? Magic the Gathering and the MCU or Marvel Comics, let's go beyond just what they have in the MCU. If you were in charge of, I don't want to say a full set because we don't have 7 or 8 hours more to talk about this, but say you get a 5 to 6 card Secret Lair drop, what would you do with that?
So the last time I did anything Marvel and Magic related, the internet yelled at me because they're like, get this out of our game, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to see Spider-Man, yada. And so, you know what? Cry about it more because I love this. And I am here to see, I would love, personally, I think Captain America, I mentioned this, there's just no way you don't have Captain America not be Promika the Wall. Because it's a giant shield, right? It's got a big butt. That's America's ass. So
it's red, white, and blue.
Yeah, it's red, white, blue. That's America's ass, right? Like that's perfect right there. And then you give me a Nico Bolas, but instead of Bolas on it, you give me Thanos. You put Thanos on there, that'd be pretty cool. And more importantly, I want something with Doctor Strange, right? So I think like Nexus of Fate, as much as I hate the card, you slap like Doctor Strange on that, I'm sold.
Yeah.
And then let me see, what are some other good, like, so if I were to put like Deadpool, I'd love to put it on like a
uncard or something.
No, I'd put him on like just like, I guess an uncard would make sense.
Yeah.
But like we need something that's like got regeneration, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's got to be like
Thrun the Last Troll feels the closest, but that's kind of like it's got to be Rakdos, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, right? And like, well, Doctor Strange, I don't know if he would be Teamer. I think he'd probably be like Grix, like blue-red at least, right? Like he's somewhere blue-red. Captain America's already Jeskai. Bolas is Grixis, so that makes sense. And you know what? Wanda Maximoff could totally just be put on a Liliana card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, like
that feels like a 1-for-1.
That's like a 1-for-1. I feel like that's pretty easy. And then I don't know. I mean, I think that's a good. I got to think about the green players. I don't quite often think about green Magic.
We don't have to. That's fine.
So you know what? But we'll give you a Hulk. All right, a Hulk. You could choose Gargaros would be a good one, I guess, or something like, unless there's something more fight eccentric. But oftentimes I think of Gargaros as just fist fighting everybody because that's how he always plays.
What about like a Grothma or something like that?
Grokma?
What's the one from the Battle Bond where you fight it and if you kill it you get all the cards or whatever?
Oh, I don't.
What is that name of that card? The big slug guy with the teeth. I
do not remember the name of that card, but you know what? Also give me a Lockjaw. Give me a Lockjaw.
Oh, heck yeah.
To be honest with you, there's so many secret layers you could do. You could do a heroes, you could do a villains, and then you could do the Marvel pets, right? We're talking like Lockjaw, Cosmo. You could just have all of that.
Make it a super drop, yeah.
Right, literally a super drop, though. It would be a super drop. And it's not that far off from, like, think about it, like Universes Beyond. Hasbro makes Marvel toys. Why wouldn't Hasbro try to get in the get a little bit of a Marvel, and then have it team up with Wizards, and then boom. We get closer and closer. We got Fortnite, something that I joked about years ago.
We have Fortnite and 40K. Like, at this point, anything is fine.
Right, like, and if no one's going to be, like, there's no way anyone's going to complain about Marvel if we've got Fortnite.
And I think, too, you've talked about it at length, and obviously the internet has had their fair share of it. But, like, at this point, even regular Magic cards don't look like Magic cards anymore. So, like, what are you fighting for at this point,
Seriously.
Just let us do what we want. Let us nerds have our fun.
Give us a Universes Beyond. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings, though, but you know what? I'm hyped for the fact that there is something like that, right? A Lord of the Rings set coming out. So this is where my fingers are crossed that we're getting a Marvel set.
Oh, my gosh. We could hope. Well, Crim, That has been fantastic. You know what? I am going to call up Gavin and Morrow and all these other people, and I'm going to get you on the team right now. With my, I have not been on Twitter in a long time. I think I have
You're
like
gonna
80.
see a sharp decline in good green cards. Yeah. There's just gonna be green's gonna have like 1/1 bears for the next like 20 years.
Why are Esper and Grixis getting so much love? Why are there 20 charms in Esper right now?
There's Esper Charm 2. I'm not going to get creative about naming them. I'm just going to...
It's just, and it's TOO at the end, like the horrible naming conventions. Jeez Louise. I love that. Man, it's been fantastic. We got to have you on again. You know, obviously, like, there's the list. We got to rotate back around. Skip Seth. We'll get Phil, Richard, Baby Richard.
Yeah, Baby
and then,
Richard.
Back up to Toner. Yeah. But, man, this has been a blast. And next time, I can't make any promises because the rest of the guys, they're just
got to get the
not
next
as
Marvel
committed.
release. The next Marvel release.
Dang, dude. Yeah. Well, let's have you on. I'm not going to schedule anything because I know you're a very busy guy. And at this point, like, preview season is every day for every set always. Like, you guys don't get a break. But if you're free around Wakanda Forever or, you know, actually Quantum Mania, we'll lock you in for
Forever,
Quantum Mania.
She-Hulk, Quantum Mania. Dude, I like, with how many Marvel things are coming out, I'd be special guesting every other week. But you know what? At the same time, I don't mind. I love talking Marvel always.
We'll just lock you in. And if it means, like, we get a special guest appearance from your dog, I'm not.
As always. Dormu has been sitting in here the whole time. He has come to bargain.
I don't know if my corgi's defective. I don't know if she could hold still long enough for me to, like, 10 minutes into this podcast and she would have been trying to eat my microphone. So I don't know what you give your dogs, but I need to get some of your dog food, whatever's in there.
He's just chilling. This dude is like overly attached to me. So
I love that. I wish my dog would chill. She is a ball of energy. Crim, it has been absolutely fantastic, man. I just want to give you another chance to just shout out your stuff. We're big fans of yours. If our community has not already heard of you, what are the big places to find you? I know you said it once at the top, but just for anyone who didn't catch it the first time.
For sure. You can find me again, twitch.tv/The Asian Avenger. Social media, just The Asian Avenger everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And then, of course, my personal YouTube channel, Crim Nguyen, CrimNguyen, where I have a bunch of content coming down the pipeline, whether it's comic book related, anime related, skits, maybe all of the above. I'm really doing a big content push once I get all the scripts written. So,
Love that. Go check them out, guys. All of the folks over at MTGGoldfish, we really do appreciate them.
Except Tomer.
Obviously. Except Tomer. Dang, and we were so close, man. He was on the podcast. We were getting it locked in, and then
just had to go and like diss Marvel.
Stab us in the back. Yeah, I don't get it, man. And you, the Infinity Bros listeners, wherever you're listening, however you're listening, thanks for making us part of your day. We love you 3000. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.